G'day guys and gal. A lot of people fall to chaos all the time. Some do it for power, some to escape the slow grinding decay of the Imperium of Man, and some do it so they can triple their cock size. Regardless of why, a lot of people seem to do it despite the obvious drawbacks. But does it ever happen the other way around? Do people who have forfeited their souls to the forces of hell ever go, wait a minute, this is shit, I'm becoming loyalist again? Is it even possible to escape the clutches of chaos? And if it is, would the Imperium even take you back? Would you just be stuck with like no allies and unlimited enemies? Is there a point of no return, or can even the smelliest of the Death Guard return to the Emperor's light? All those questions and more will be answered in today's video. Before we get started, every man and woman at some point in their lives needs to go bald eagle. For the pure-hearted Majorkill viewers, so like 2 of you, that means shaving your reproductive organs. Should you use a razor? Nah, that shit gives me razor bumps and so many ingrown hairs it looks like I have an STD. What about a classic electric shaver? Nah bro, that will slice through the softer skin at the base of the shaft and genuinely split your scrotum in half. So what do you use to get a clean, consistent and safe cock and ball shave? That's right, the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. This device will not nip, cut or clip you at all below the belt, and whilst it is the star of the show, the Perfect Package 4 has other things that you didn't realize you needed until now, the ball deodorant being the standout. Sometimes your dick just stinks at the worst times. When I go to do jiu-jitsu and I get these older sweaty men that just are sitting on my face, it's not great when their moist balls smell like a necrotizing rhino corpse. So between a clean shave and ball deodorant, stanky dick is a thing of the past. To get these, as well as a nice toiletries bag and a free pair of comfy undies, use my link and code Majorkill below for 20% off and free international shipping. Cheers to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Today we'll ponder the question, can you be redeemed once you have fallen to chaos? We'll look at various examples from the lore that dive into this subject to discover if it's possible and to what degree a heretic can be redeemed. Let's get into it. Alright, let's start nice and easy. What happens if you are accidentally tricked or baited into betraying the Imperium? You haven't necessarily drank from the Chaos Kool-Aid, but due to chaotic manipulation, you now find yourself at war with the God Emperor of mankind. This is actually quite an easy situation to recover from, depending on who you are. If you are cannon fodder being used as a pawn by your lords and commanders, even if your army surrenders and admits its transgressions and regrets it, you'll likely still either be shot in the back of the head or sent to work hard labor until you die. Your best bet would be to desert the traitorous army and gain a new identity, or defect to the Imperium mid-war and give them intel, while saying that you were always a loyalist. An example that compares to this is when a number of Gudrunite riflemen were commandeered unknowingly by the forces of chaos. When they realized what had happened, they tried to escape, and some of them were able to do so. They were treated with respect by the Imperium and allowed to fight for the Emperor against chaos in the following battle without consequence. If you are a space marine that finds yourself on the wrong side, like how the Lamenters did during the Bad Dab War, upon defeat, your chapter will be humiliated, bankrupt, and then heavily interrogated. If it is shown that you were just genuinely misled and still thought you were serving the Emperor, then your chapter will likely be sent on a near-suicidal penitent crusade in order to make up for what you did. After the Bad Dab War, where the Lamenters got their shit kicked in by the Minotaurs, they were allowed to continue their existence in the form of a penitent crusade. So surprisingly, going to war with the Imperium isn't a one-way trip to hell. As long as the source of your betrayal wasn't corruption or heresy, you can generally be redeemed with a slap on the wrist. What if you betray the Imperium and join chaos or become a renegade? Can you come back from that? Well, it really depends. Imagine chaos as a pool of acid. You dip your pinky in, ouch. Pull it out, you now have a burnt pinky, but you're pretty fine overall. You dip your foot in, big ouch. Your leg, huge ouch. Eventually, you won't be able to pull yourself out of the pool. Same with chaos. The more balls deep you go, the harder it'll be to pull out. However, if you are a renegade fighting in a chaos warband and you witness something fucked, like an Emperor's Children space marine raping a sausage dog or some shit, and you think to yourself, what the fuck am I doing, this is retarded, and you decide to try rejoin the Imperium, as long as you don't have like tentacles and shit, it's actually not that hard. You have 2 options. Option A would be to find a loyalist chapter with the same gene father as yourself and basically ask to join and apologize for being a heretic. If they're a chill chapter and don't have any librarians nearby that can mind rape you and discover your heresy, then you could be sweet, but it is a bit of a risk. The better option is to blowtorch your armor till it's black, then present yourself to a Death Watch commander. If you pass the vibe check, the Watch commander will bestow the rank of Black Shield on you, which basically means no one will ask about your history and you may once again fight in the Emperor's name. It's a lot like joining the Night's Watch from Game of Thrones. For non-Space Marines, it's a bit more difficult, but not too much so. If you're a Chaos Cultist who has bailed, you could simply just pose as a refugee and rejoin the Imperium that way. You could also try strike up a deal with a Radical Inquisitor. You get a new life, identity and money, and you have to help them take down a spicy heretic. There's actually a female Fenrisian Inquisitor who has an ex-Chaos Cultist in her retinue. It's unknown if this is because he is useful and has genuinely repented his sins, or if that Chaos dick is just too irresistible. Either way, it has happened. What about when your body and soul has been tainted by Chaos? Is there any coming back from that? Kinda, but definitely not in the way as before. The Soul Drinkers are a good case study. The Soul Drinkers were one of the original Imperial Fist successors, but somewhere along the line, their gene seed stocks were swapped out for a tainted batch by the Ruinous Powers. From there, a number of their leaders secretly fell to Chaos, and they started pushing the Soul Drinkers into damnation. Eventually, their new leader, who was still a loyalist, sprouted fucking spider legs, and the rest of the chapter underwent numerous mutations. They also attacked the Mechanicus in order to retrieve an old relic that belonged to Rogel Dawn. So at this point, they were declared renegade, had a lot of corruption, and they had purged the chapter of anyone that was like, wait a minute guys, this is getting kinda sus. When they were eventually caught by the Imperial Fists and put on trial, they discovered that they had been betrayed by some of their ancient heroes, and they were damned. To make up for this, they fought against a random demon invasion of the Phalanx, and they were cut down to the last man. Their leader then happily walked into the warp and accepted his fate. Despite not even being true Sons of Dawn, and despite being very corrupted, the Soul Drinkers were still noble, and the Imperial Fists even honoured their sacrifice and put up a memorial for them. This might not be the best example because they all ended up dying, but generally when a chapter is corrupted, all records and awards they've ever received are striped from existence. You literally get deleted. Not great. But yeah, for someone who is already experiencing obvious chaos corruption and their souls already kind of forfeit in the first place, your options are pretty limited when it comes to rejoining the Imperium. So what about the stage after that? What if you are so entrenched in chaos that no amount of repenting, abstaining from sex, or praising the God Emperor will even remotely cleanse your soul? At this point, rejoining the Imperium is basically impossible. No sane person would allow a Plague Marine or a Gal Vorbak to join the Loyalists. Even if they did, the Chaos Gods would notice and either turn the traitorous Traitor Marine into a Chaos Spawn, or they would manipulate them further to achieve their own ends. But that doesn't mean there can't be some kind of redemption of a long lost soul. There has been cases where a Chaos Marine, who is wildly corrupted, has made a choice to turn their back on Chaos and get vengeance against the Ruinous Powers, even if it results in their death and their souls being torn to shreds. The best example of this is when an Ultramarine is corrupted by an extremely powerful Greater Demon of Nurgle, and he becomes a Chaos Champion of Nurgle. This was a big deal as the Ultramarine who fell was a beacon of nobility and loyalty. His close friend was a Sister of Battle, who despaired at seeing her hero, her icon, fall so easily. She spends the next few years trying to find the Ultramarine to put him out of his misery, or in her naive mind, save his soul. Eventually, she finds him and they speak before he leaves her to go see his Nurglite master. His master is pleased to see him, only for the ex-Ultramarine to reveal that he had shoved a nuclear bomb into his decaying ribcage. The bomb goes off, and the Greater Demon of Nurgle, his minions, and the Ultramarine are all obliterated. For the fucking Emperor. His soul was not saved, and the Imperium has still struck his name from their records, but in his final moments, despite his rotten body and corrupted mind, he was a true son of the Imperium of mankind. Speaking of Plague Marines, one time a couple Plague Marines were cut off from the warp, and they were instantly horrified and disgusted with what they had become before they died horribly, so it's unknown if they would have swapped sides if they had survived, or if that's just the natural reaction to seeing all your intestines hanging outside of your body. Stuff like this is rare, but it isn't a one-off. A Thousand Sun sorcerer once spat the dummy and decided to direct his heretic fleet into a warp storm in order to kill them all, whilst the Wordbearer sorcerer renounced the Chaos Gods and destroyed a world that they really liked as a big fuck you to them. There was also a small group of Thousand Sun sorcerers who found Rylanor. The group of Thousand Sun sorcerers who found Rylanor also allowed themselves to be nuked in order to screw over Fulgrim, but that was probably less about them rejoining the Imperium and more so them finding Fulgrim such an insufferable prick that they were willing to die in order to just mildly inconvenience him. A more recent example includes the time a Chaos Cultist was captured and heavily tortured by some Sisters of Battle. The cultist, even on the brink of death, barely budged, and never renounced their loyalty to Chaos. Then a Custodes arrives to interrogate the cultist, and as soon as she sees him, she instantly regrets all her life choices, renounces Chaos, and apologizes for betraying the Emperor. She then tells the Custodes everything he wanted to know before he snaps her neck and her soul is torn apart by hungry demons. So like, yeah, in her last moments she repented, but it was too little too late. What about the traitor Primarchs? The Emperor told Mortarion that with time and enough fucks to give, the Emperor could save Morty's soul and restore him back to how he was. Emperor can do anything, except be a good dad, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was true. And finally, the most famous example of all, Horus after the ruinous powers had left him. When Horus and the Big E fought, the Big E won. As he won, Chaos left Horus, and Horus instantly regretted everything and sought forgiveness. The Emperor did not give it. Instead of forgiveness, he completely and utterly obliterated Horus's soul and permanently killed him. Rough, man. So yes, if you turn your back on the Imperium, even if you completely embrace Chaos and all its mutations, you can still be redeemed. What that redemption looks like really depends on how far you have fallen. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be. Only $1 per month give you access to a boatload of cheeky schmentai. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more irredeemable content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.